Chosen one, anchor your spirit to what I am about to say right now. That restless feeling you cannot shake, the one sitting in the back of your mind telling you that something is about to go wrong. Do not run from it. Listen to it. Because it is not fear. It is a warning. The enemy is working overtime right now for one reason and one reason only. He has seen the plan God wrote over your life before you were born, and he knows that plan is about to activate. He is not attacking you because you are losing. He is attacking you because heaven just moved on your behalf. And if he can get you to panic, to act out of fear, to make one rash decision in the next 24 hours, he believes he can derail what God has already set in motion. But that is not going to happen. Not today. It all ends right here. The confusion, the dread, the sense that danger is closing in from every direction. But listen closely, because this is the part that will change how you see this entire season. It is not ending because God finally took pity on you. It is ending because of what you have already done. Think back to that moment this week when something in you wanted to react, wanted to take matters into your own hands, but you stopped. Maybe you felt it as weakness. Maybe someone even told you it was weakness. But you held back. You waited. You trusted something you could not fully see yet. You did not know it in that moment, but that act of restraint was not passive. It was prophetic. It was the moment your obedience became a weapon and the plan God designed for your protection locked into place. You did not miss your window. You opened it. You did not find this message by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. God did. This is a divine appointment written into the calendar of heaven, long before today, long before this season of pressure began. You are standing at the exact threshold where danger transforms into deliverance. Do not scroll past what I am about to show you. Your future self is standing on the other side of this message, begging you to stay. Because if you leave now, you leave before you hear the one truth that dissolves everything the enemy has been using to paralyze you. In the next few minutes, I am going to reveal the specific danger God is protecting you from right now, the assignment that has been running in the background of your life, draining your peace, clouding your vision, keeping you one step behind. I am going to walk you through the divine plan that was already constructed to save you before you even realized you needed saving. And at the end, I am going to give you a declaration that seals that plan shut and locks the enemy out of the door he has been standing in. Stay until the very last word. I know what the last 72 hours have felt like. Not just heavy, unstable. Like the ground beneath your feet has been slightly unsteady, and you cannot tell if you are being dramatic or if something is genuinely shifting around you in a way you cannot control. Maybe you found yourself going over a conversation again and again this week, trying to figure out if you said the wrong thing, made the wrong move, trusted the wrong person. Or maybe it was not a conversation at all. Maybe it was a decision, something you set into motion weeks or months ago, and suddenly this week it started to feel like it was coming back in a way you were not prepared for. Or maybe it was quieter than that. Maybe you just woke up several mornings this week with this low, unnamed dread sitting on your chest before you even opened your eyes, a heaviness with no clear source, no face, no explanation. That is not anxiety. That is a spiritual signal. You feel it because you are not asleep. You are awake enough to sense the movement around you, and something in your spirit knows that this is not an ordinary season. You are in the middle of something, and you do not yet have the full picture of what it is. And in that incomplete picture, the enemy has been inserting his narrative. He has been whispering a very specific lie. Listen to your own thoughts this week, because he has been telling you that the danger you feel is a consequence, that the instability surrounding you right now is the result of something you did wrong. He has been replaying a specific moment, pointing to a specific choice, and saying that because of that, you are now exposed. That God's hand of protection has moved, that you stepped outside of the plan through your own failure, and now you are on your own to figure your way back in. That is the lie. and it has been eating at you in the quiet moments. But I need you to hear what the Word of God actually says about this moment. Psalm 138:8 declares, "The Lord will perfect that which concerns me. Your mercy, O Lord, endures forever. Do not forsake the works of your hands." Hear that. The Lord will perfect, not repair, not patch, not revisit. Perfect. Everything that concerns you, not just the big things, not just the obvious things. Everything. Every area where you feel exposed right now, every open door you are afraid you cannot close, every consequence you are bracing for, it is already in His hands. And His mercy does not expire. It does not run out because you hesitated too long or moved imperfectly. The works of His hands do not get abandoned because the enemy filed a report against you. You are not outside the plan. You are being carried by it. The danger you sense is real. But here is what the enemy has not told you. God saw it first. Before you felt the first wave of unease, before the first restless night, before the first moment of doubt, God had already constructed the path around it. The plan of God is not reactive. It is not responding to your crisis. It was written before your crisis existed. The heaviness you are carrying right now is not the weight of consequence. It is the weight of a transition that is larger than anything you have navigated before. You are not falling, you are being repositioned. And the danger that felt like it was closing in on you, God placed Himself in front of it before you even knew to pray. You are not in the middle of a disaster. You are in the middle of a rescue. If everything you just heard made your spirit burn, that was not this video. That was God confirming something He has been trying to tell you for months. But confirmation without action is the most dangerous place a chosen one can be, because the enemy does not attack those who stay asleep. He attacks those who are one step away from waking up, and that is exactly where you are right now. The inner sanctum was built for this moment, so you wake up every morning to a fresh word from God spoken directly to your spirit. The link is in the first pinned comment. You will know if it is for you the moment you see it. If this message is reaching you right now, I want you to grab our free ebook, Chosen One: Surviving the Plan God Has for You. The link is in the description. It will walk you through everything we're covering today and more. Get it now, and let's go deeper together. Because here's what I need you to understand first. The danger you're in isn't the kind that shows up with warning signs. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with sirens or flashing lights. The danger of being chosen is that everything around you will begin to shift. Your relationships, your comfort, your sense of certainty, and if you don't know what's happening, you will fight God's process thinking you're fighting the enemy. And I need you to really sit with that for a moment, because this isn't abstract theology. This is the lived reality of every single person who has ever been genuinely called by God to something greater than where they currently stand. The shift doesn't feel holy when you're inside it. It feels like loss. It feels like disruption. It feels like the ground beneath you has become unstable. And no matter how hard you pray, no matter how faithfully you show up, the shaking doesn't stop. And so you begin to wonder, did I miss something? Did I do something wrong? Is this a consequence or is this a calling? And the confusion between those two things is where so many chosen people lose years of their lives. That's what most people miss. They spend years praying for deliverance from the very thing that is delivering them. They beg God to remove the pressure that is actually forming them. And heaven watches, not with indifference, but with the patience of a craftsman who knows the fire is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. There is an image I want you to carry with you through this entire message. Think of a blacksmith at his forge. He doesn't apologize for the heat. He doesn't check in with the metal to make sure it's comfortable. He knows that the metal cannot become the blade it was created to be without being brought to a temperature that would be unbearable to anything less resilient. He knows that what looks like destruction from the outside is actually the most precise and intentional work he will do all day. And when he pulls that blade from the fire, when he shapes it and quenches it and holds it up to the light, every single degree of heat was necessary. Not one moment in the fire was wasted. Not one strike of the hammer was accidental. And the blade, that blade, is now capable of things that the raw, unformed metal never could have been. That is what God is doing with you right now. That is what the fire has always been for. Think about Joseph for a moment. Not the version you've heard preached in celebration, but the version that lived it. 17 years old, a dreamer with a divine deposit inside him, and God's first move was to strip him of everything familiar: his coat, his family, his freedom. His name meant almost nothing in a foreign land, and there was no burning bush, no angels standing at the foot of his pit. Just silence, just descent, just a process that looked from the outside like destruction. But what appeared to be the end of Joseph was actually the architecture of his assignment. And the danger he faced wasn't the pit, it was the possibility that he would interpret the pit incorrectly. Think about what it actually meant to be Joseph in that moment, not in the preached version where we already know the ending. In the actual moment, lying at the bottom of that pit, hearing his brothers eating their meal overhead, feeling the rough walls of stone around him and the darkening sky above him. There was no revelation handed to him in that pit. There was no voice from heaven saying, "This is part of the plan." There was only the weight of what had just happened and the unbearable distance between the dream God had given him and the reality he was now living. The dream said elevated. The reality said abandoned. The dream said chosen. The reality said forgotten. And Joseph had to make a decision, not a one-time dramatic altar call decision, but a daily grinding invisible decision. About which story he was going to believe. Because the pit was not the end of Joseph's story, but it would have been if he had decided that it was. And this is where it goes deeper, because that same danger is alive in you right now. You have been interpreting your season through the wrong lens. You've been calling your preparation a punishment. You've been calling your isolation abandonment. You've been calling your delay a denial. And every time you've done that, you've added weight to a journey that was already requiring everything you have. Because the way you name your season determines how you carry it. And how you carry it determines whether you survive it. Words have weight, not just in the theological sense, though the scripture is clear that death and life are in the power of the tongue, but in the deeply practical, psychological, spiritual sense. When you name something, you give it a framework, you give it a meaning. You give it a trajectory. When a doctor diagnoses an illness, the name of that illness immediately shapes how the patient lives with it, how they fight it, how they relate to it. The same is true of your spiritual seasons. When you call your wilderness a wasteland, you stop looking for the manna. When you call your valley a grave, you stop expecting the resurrection. When you call your process a punishment, you stop cooperating with the preparation. And the preparation cannot complete its work in someone who is fighting it from the inside. This is why the language of your inner life matters more than most people realize. It's not about toxic positivity. It's not about pretending that hard things aren't hard. It's about understanding that there is a difference between saying this is painful and saying this is purposeless. One is honest. The other is dangerous. Joseph could have said, "This pit is painful," and been completely right. But if he had also said, "This pit is the end," he would have been fatally wrong. And the difference between those two statements is the difference between a man who arrives at his palace and a man who dies in a prison with a story no one ever tells. But there's something beneath even that, and most people never get here. It's not just about misreading the season. It's about what that misreading costs you spiritually. When you call God's process a curse, you begin to pull back from it. You begin to look for exits. And every exit you take adds time. Every shortcut rewrites the route back to your purpose. The Israelites didn't wander in the wilderness for 40 years because God was slow. They wandered because they kept choosing familiar over faithful. They kept reaching for Egypt when Canaan was already promised. And I want to stay here for just a moment longer, because the Egypt metaphor is more alive in your life today than you might be willing to admit. Egypt, for the Israelites, wasn't just a place. It was a known quantity. It was predictable suffering. It was bondage with a schedule. And as terrible as slavery was, there was something almost comforting about knowing what each day would look like, about having the parameters of your existence defined for you, about never having to make the terrifying choice to believe in something you couldn't yet see. The wilderness, on the other hand, was open and unmapped, and dependent entirely on the provision and direction of a God they were still learning to trust. And chosen people, even today, will voluntarily return to their Egypt, not because they want the slavery, but because they cannot tolerate the uncertainty of the journey toward Canaan. They will return to the relationship that diminished them, because at least it was familiar. They will return to the career that suffocated them, because at least it paid consistently. They will return to the version of themselves they were trying to leave behind, because that version at least knew how to function in the world they were trying to outgrow. But Canaan cannot be reached from Egypt, and the only path between them goes directly through the wilderness. There is no alternate route. There is no highway that bypasses the desert. There is no version of your destiny that skips the formation. And every time you turn back, the wilderness gets longer, not because God is punishing you, but because the character required to steward Canaan has to be built somewhere, and the wilderness is where that building happens. And what's coming next in this message will likely surprise you, because we're about to touch the part of this journey that no one wants to look at directly. Stay with me, because once you stop misreading the season, once you stop fighting the fire, something else rises to the surface. Something quieter, something that doesn't look dangerous at all, which is exactly why it is. It's the voice of comfort, not sinful comfort, but spiritual complacency, dressed in the language of gratitude. It sounds like, I'm just grateful for where I am. It sounds like, I don't want to be greedy, so I won't ask for more. It sounds like peace, but it's actually a ceiling. And chosen people hit this ceiling all the time. They survive the hard season, they find a manageable place, and then they stop moving. They mistake survival for arrival. This is one of the most subtle and destructive traps in the entire landscape of spiritual formation. And it's subtle precisely because it borrows the language of virtue. Gratitude is a virtue. Contentment is a virtue. Not grasping for more than you need is a virtue. And so when spiritual complacency wraps itself in those words, it becomes almost impossible to challenge without feeling like you're challenging the virtue itself. But there is a difference, a profound and critical difference, between the gratitude that opens your hands in surrender and the gratitude that closes your hands to prevent growth. One says, I receive what you have given me, and I trust that you will give me more as I am ready. The other says, I will not move from here, and I will call my stillness thankfulness. One is the posture of a pilgrim at rest. The other is the posture of a pilgrim who has decided the journey is over before the destination has been reached. God didn't bring you through the fire to sit at the edge of it. He brought you through to carry the testimony further than you can currently imagine. The testimony was never just for you. That is something that the comfort voice never tells you. It never tells you about the people on the other side of your obedience. It never tells you about the generations that will be altered by your willingness to keep moving when staying felt safer. It never shows you the full picture, because if it did, you would recognize it for exactly what it is: a thief dressed as a friend, a ceiling disguised as a floor, a stopping point masquerading as a destination. The fire you walked through was forming you into someone who could carry a story that others need to hear. And every day you spend sitting at the edge of your breakthrough, comfortable enough to stop, but not yet fully arrived, is a day that story goes undelivered to someone who is desperately waiting for it. Now, once you understand that, you're ready for this. And this is where the narrative shifts entirely. The plan of God is not designed to be comfortable. It is designed to be complete, and completion requires you to move through layers of yourself that you haven't been willing to touch. There is a version of you that is still waiting for permission. still waiting for someone to validate what God already confirmed, still rehearsing the opinions of people who were never assigned to your destiny in the first place. And that version of you, that permission-seeking, validation-needing, approval-waiting version, is not qualified to carry what heaven is about to release. Let me say that again in a different way, because it needs to land fully. The people whose opinions you have been waiting on, the ones whose approval you have been rehearsing in the quiet corners of your mind, were not in the room when God spoke your name before the foundation of the world. They were not present at your spiritual conception. They did not author your assignment. They do not hold the deed to your destiny. And yet you have given them veto power over a calling that was signed and sealed in heaven long before any of them ever entered your life. You have handed your divine mandate to people who were given to you for a season, or for a lesson, or for a sharpening, but never for a final word. And as long as you are waiting for their nod, you will be standing still in a life that was built for forward motion. Because what God releases doesn't come to who's ready by human standards. It comes to who's surrendered by divine ones. There is a readiness that comes from accomplishment, from credentials, from the accumulation of evidence that proves you deserve what you're asking for. And then there is a readiness that comes from surrender, from the complete, open-handed laying down of your own agenda, your own timeline, your own definitions of how this is supposed to look. The first kind of readiness is built by human effort. The second kind is cultivated in the wilderness. The first kind can be faked. The second kind cannot. And heaven, without exception, operates on the second kind, which is why the people who arrive at their divine assignments are rarely the ones who looked most prepared. They are the ones who were most surrendered. They are the ones who had been emptied enough to be filled with something other than their own plans. Think of Gideon, standing in a winepress, hiding from the very enemy he was called to defeat. And the angel of the Lord walks up to him, not to where he wished he was, not to his potential, but to where he actually was, and calls him a mighty man of valor. Not because Gideon had proven it, but because God saw what Gideon couldn't. The title came before the transformation. The identity came before the evidence. And Gideon had a choice. He could argue with the assignment, which he did initially, or he could grow into the name heaven had already given him. And what strikes me most about this encounter is its specificity. The angel didn't appear to Gideon in a temple, or on a mountaintop, or in a moment of great spiritual clarity. He appeared to him in a winepress, a place of pressing, a place designed for crushing, a place that was never intended to be a home, but that Gideon had somehow made into one because the open field felt too dangerous. And isn't that a picture of where so many of us are right now? Not in dramatic rebellion against God, but in quiet self-preservation, not denying the calling, but hiding from it, not rejecting the assignment, but miniaturizing our lives until the assignment seems like something that belongs to someone else, someone braver, someone more qualified, someone who hasn't made the mistakes you've made or carried the wounds you're carrying. And then heaven shows up, not to where you wish you were, but to exactly where you are, and calls you by a name that doesn't match your current address. And the question that hangs in the air after that encounter is not, do you deserve this name? It is simply, will you grow into it? You have been arguing with your assignment, maybe not out loud, but in the quiet places, in the moments before sleep, in the spaces between prayer, you have been negotiating with what God spoke over you because it doesn't match what you see in the mirror. And I understand that negotiation. I understand it because it comes from a real place, a place of self-awareness, a place of honesty about your own limitations, a place of not wanting to presume on God's grace or overpromise what you can deliver. And there is something genuinely humble in that impulse, but there is also something that is not humility at all, something that masquerades as humility, but is actually a refusal to believe that God means what he says. Because when you look in the mirror and see someone unworthy of the calling, and then you use that assessment to override what God has spoken, you are not being humble. You are being more confident in your own evaluation than in God's. You are, in a very specific and important sense, trusting yourself more than you're trusting Him. Real humility doesn't say, "I can't possibly be who God says I am." Real humility says, "I can't become who God says I am on my own." But that was never the point. The point was always that He would do in me what I could never do for myself. And coming up, the one thing that's been feeding the delay most deeply, the thing hiding underneath the faith and the prayer and the effort. Stay with me, because this is where everything breaks open. But first, this has to land. The assignment was never waiting for your confidence. The breakthrough was never waiting for your readiness. Heaven operates on a different calendar than the one hanging on your wall. And God doesn't release according to your timeline. He releases according to your transformation. Which means the question isn't, when will things change? The question is, what still needs to change in me so that I can hold what's coming? That reframing is not a small thing. It is in fact because when you ask, when will things change, you position yourself as a passive recipient of circumstances that are happening to you. A person waiting at a bus stop, watching the world go by, hoping that the right vehicle eventually comes. But when you ask, what still needs to change in me, you become an active participant in the process of your own transformation. You become someone who understands that the delay is not a verdict on your value, but an invitation into a deeper work. You become someone who cooperates with the process instead of resisting it. And cooperation with the process is the single greatest accelerant of the breakthrough. Not striving, not performing, not hustling your way to the front of the line. Cooperation. Surrender. The willingness to be changed at the level where the change is actually needed. And that question will take you somewhere uncomfortable, because the honest answer often reveals something we've been carefully avoiding. There is a wound inside the chosen that, if left untended, will sabotage every open door. It's not doubt. It's not laziness. It's not even fear in the obvious sense. It's unresolved grief. The grief of the version of your life you thought you'd have by now. The grief of the relationships that didn't survive your growth. The grief of the years that felt wasted. And chosen people rarely grieve properly because they're told to be strong, to trust the process, to keep moving forward. So the grief goes underground, and underground grief doesn't disappear. It contaminates. It poisons your ability to receive, because somewhere beneath the surface, you've decided that hope is too expensive. That wanting something deeply only makes the disappointment heavier, and this is the hidden root that most transformation teaching never touches. I want to pause here and give this the weight it deserves, because this might be the most important thing said in this entire message. The wound of unresolved grief in the life of a chosen person is not a peripheral issue. It is a central one. It is the wound that sits beneath the doubt, beneath the stalled obedience, beneath the pattern of almost arriving and then pulling back at the last moment. It is the wound that makes you hesitate at the threshold of your own breakthrough, because the last time you stood at a threshold like this, something collapsed. And the pain of that collapse was so significant that some part of you decided, without ever announcing it consciously, that you would rather stay in the hallway than risk another door closing on your fingers. And you have been living in that hallway ever since. Praying for open doors, yes, but standing just far enough back that you could plausibly deny you were ever really trying to walk through one. The grief of the life you imagined, the grief of the relationship you poured yourself into, that still ended. The grief of the dream that felt God-given but seemed to fall apart in your hands. The grief of watching other people arrive at places that you believed were also meant for you. The grief of time, of years that passed and left you wondering what was actually happening in the invisible places of your life, whether any of it was adding up to anything, whether the process you trusted was actually producing anything at all. That grief is real. It is valid, and it has been eating you alive in the silence, because you never gave yourself permission to set it down properly before God. Because until you grieve what didn't happen, properly, honestly before God, you cannot fully receive what is happening. You will hold your blessings at arm's length. You will celebrate breakthroughs with one eye watching for them to fall apart, You will step into open doors while half your heart is still standing at the one that closed on you 2 seasons ago. Think about what it means to receive a blessing with guarded hands, to step into an answered prayer while bracing for it to be taken away, to celebrate a breakthrough while simultaneously preparing yourself for the disappointment you're sure is coming. This is not caution. This is a wound operating in real time. This is the residue of grief that was never fully processed, expressing itself as a protective distance from the very things God is trying to give you. And the devastating irony is that the distance you create to protect yourself from loss is the same distance that prevents you from fully inhabiting the gift. You cannot be fully present in a blessing you're already preparing to lose. You cannot fully receive the abundance of God while your hands are still clenched around the ache of what was taken. David understood this. Before the throne, before the dynasty, before every military victory, David wept deeply, repeatedly. He wrote laments that felt almost irreverent in their honesty. He said things to God that most of us would edit before we prayed them. But that raw, unfiltered grief was what kept David's heart soft enough to receive direction, humble enough to repent, and strong enough to endure what the anointing required. He didn't bypass the pain. He brought it directly to God and let it transform on the altar. Read the Psalms with fresh eyes, and you will find a man who had absolutely no interest in performing his faith. Psalm 22 begins with the cry, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And that isn't the psalm of a man in crisis of faith. That is the psalm of a man who was so deeply in relationship with God that he could bring his most devastating questions directly to the throne without fear of being rejected for them. David didn't clean up his grief before presenting it to God. He didn't wait until he had processed it into something more theologically tidy. He wept into the presence of God, openly and without shame, and trusted that the God who called him could handle the full weight of what he was carrying. And that vulnerability, that complete unwillingness to perform strength he didn't feel, is what made David a man after God's own heart. Not his victories, not his psalms of praise, his willingness to be fully known in the places that were breaking. And now we arrive at the place that changes everything, the unexpected part, the thing beneath all the things. Here's what I need you to hear, and I need you to let it fully settle before you move on with your day. The thing that has been blocking your breakthrough is not the enemy's opposition. It is not your past mistakes. It is not the people who betrayed you or the doors that were closed against you. The thing that has been blocking you is a version of yourself that you have been secretly protecting. A version that is familiar, that is safe, that knows how to survive in the in-between. And as long as you protect that version, as long as you cushion it, defend it, make excuses for it, you will delay your own arrival. This is a hard truth, and it needs to land without cushioning. Because the comfortable narrative is always about external obstacles. The people who stood against you, the systems that weren't built for you, the timing that wasn't right, the enemy that was working overtime. And sometimes those things are real. The opposition is real, the betrayal was real. But underneath all of those external realities, there is often an internal one that is equally powerful and far less examined. There is a version of you that has learned to live in the tension between the calling and the fulfillment of it. A version that has become almost expert at the journey, at the process, at the waiting, but that has never fully committed to the arrival. Because arrival means accountability. It means visibility. It means that the excuses run out and the assignment becomes fully, irreversibly yours. And some part of you, in its wisdom and its wounding, has decided that the journey is safer than the destination. Because the chosen one God is calling you to become cannot coexist with the diminished version you've grown comfortable wearing. One of them has to go, and only you can decide which one lives. This is not a cruel requirement, it is a merciful one. Because God is not asking you to destroy yourself, He is asking you to release the self that was built by survival so that the self built by sovereignty can finally emerge. The caterpillar doesn't fight the cocoon, it surrenders to it. And the transformation that happens in the darkness, in the dissolving, in the complete undoing. That is not death. That is the most alive the creature has ever been. There is a biological reality inside that metaphor that I want you to hold on to. When a caterpillar forms a chrysalis and the transformation begins, it doesn't simply rearrange its existing parts into a different configuration. The caterpillar essentially liquefies. Its body dissolves into a primordial soup of cellular material, and from that dissolution, an entirely new architecture is assembled. The butterfly does not emerge from a modified caterpillar. It emerges from what the caterpillar was willing to become when it completely let go of what it was. And if you were to open that chrysalis in the middle of the process, you would not find a half-formed butterfly inside. You would find something that looked like nothing at all, formless, suspended between identities, and yet that moment of apparent formlessness is not the failure of the process. It is the heart of it. It is the moment where the transformation is most complete, because you cannot become the new thing while clinging to the shape of the old thing. The dissolution has to be total. The surrender has to be complete. And the darkness of the cocoon is not a punishment. It is the womb of the becoming. You are in that cocoon right now, and the danger, the real danger, is not that the process will break you. The danger is that you will break out too soon, before the wings are ready, because the discomfort became unbearable, and the world outside looked easier than the transformation inside. Don't break out too soon. There is a well-known illustration of a man who found a butterfly struggling to emerge from its cocoon, and, in his compassion, cut the cocoon open to free it. The butterfly emerged easily, but its wings were shriveled and useless. It could never fly. What the man didn't understand was that the struggle to emerge from the cocoon was not a problem to be solved. It was the process by which fluid was forced from the butterfly's body into its wings, making them strong enough to carry it into the air. The struggle was the strengthening. The resistance was the preparation. And by removing the resistance in the name of compassion, he removed the very mechanism that would have made flight possible. This is what premature exits from God's process do. This is what shortcuts cost you. Not just time, not just progress. The specific kind of strength that can only be developed through the specific resistance of the season you are in. And that strength is not optional. You will need it for where you are going. The altitude of your assignment requires the wing strength of your process, and there are no substitutes. Let the process complete what it started. Let the grief be grieved. Let the old version go. Let the name God called you before you were born finally have more authority in your life than every name the world assigned you in the years since, because there was a name spoken over you before you took your first breath. Before any diagnosis, before any failure, before any relationship defined you or broke you or tried to contain you, there was a word from God about who you were and what you were made for. That word was not conditional on your performance. It was not revoked by your worst season. It was not diminished by the opinions of people who only knew you in your most limited form. It was spoken by the one who made you, the one who knows the full arc of your story, the one who sees the end from the beginning and builds backward from the destination with a precision that looks like chaos from the middle of the journey, but reveals itself as perfect architecture from the other side of it. And that name, that original, God-breathed, heaven-issued name, is the truest thing about you, not the name given to you by your trauma, not the name assigned to you by your failures, not the name whispered to you by the voice of not enough and too late and who do you think you are, the name that was spoken before any of those voices existed. That name still stands, and it is more than enough to carry you into everything that is coming. And when you feel the weight of it, when the season feels unbearable and the silence of heaven feels like absence, remember this: God does not build the chosen by exempting them from difficulty. He builds them by walking through it with them in a way that is often invisible until the very moment the door opens. And when it does, you will look back and see that every single step was intentional. Every closed door was direction. Every delay was preparation. Every loss was making room. The silence of God in the middle of your process is perhaps the hardest thing to endure. Because silence can feel like absence. It can feel like indifference. It can feel like the terrible possibility that you were wrong about the calling, wrong about the promise, wrong about everything. But the silence of heaven is not the silence of a God who has looked away. It is the silence of a craftsman at work, focused, intentional, too absorbed in the precise work of your formation to pause for conversation about the timeline. It is the silence of a surgeon who does not stop to comfort the patient mid-procedure, not because he doesn't care, but because the caring is expressed in the cutting, in the removal of what was causing harm, in the meticulous work that requires his full attention. And when the surgery is complete, when the healing begins, you will understand that the silence was not abandonment. It was concentration. It was the sound of God working too specifically in your life to stop and explain each step to you as he went. Isaiah said it plainly, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways," not as a dismissal, but as a reassurance. As if to say, what looks like absence from where you're standing looks like active, precise, purposeful work from where I'm standing. And I need you to trust the view from here, even when you cannot share it yet. That is the invitation of every silent season. Not to understand, but to trust. Not to see clearly, but to walk faithfully. Not to have all the answers, but to hold the hand of the one who does. You are not behind. You are being built. And what is being built in you is not for this moment. It is for the moment that's coming, the one that requires exactly who you are becoming right now. Every single thing you have walked through, every season that made no sense, every door that closed without explanation, every relationship that ended before you were ready, every dream that seemed to stall at the worst possible moment, all of it has been building something in you that could not have been built any other way. The specific combination of strength and compassion and wisdom and resilience that you now carry is not accidental. It is not incidental. It is the precise equipment for the assignment that is coming. And the reason it had to be built this way, through this specific fire, in this specific experiences, is that the assignment is specific. It is not a generic calling for a generic person. It is a particular invitation to a particular kind of life that requires a particular kind of formation. And you are that person. You have been that person from the beginning, and everything that has brought you to this moment has been doing the work of making you ready for what comes next. Place your hand on your heart and declare this with me. I release the grief of what didn't happen. I release the labels placed on me by people who could not see what heaven sees. I release the version of myself built only for survival. I am not behind. I am not forgotten. I am not disqualified. I am chosen, and being chosen means I am carried even when I cannot feel the hands. I break agreement with every lie that called my process a punishment. I receive my season as preparation. I receive my silence as formation. I receive my discomfort as divine construction. I will not break out too soon. I will trust the one who began this work in me to complete it. And I walk forward today, not because everything is clear, not because everything is easy, but because I know that the God who called me has never once lost track of me. And that is enough. That is more than enough. And I am ready. And don't let that declaration be just words. Let it be a turning. Let it be the moment you decide, genuinely decide, that the story you've been telling yourself about your season is going to change. Let it be the moment the misnamed wilderness becomes a passage instead of a permanent address. Let it be the moment you stop protecting the diminished version and start growing into the name heaven already gave you. Because declarations without decision are just sound, but declarations that come from a heart that has genuinely shifted, those become anchors. Those become the line in the sand between who you were yesterday and who you are choosing to become today. Let this be that line. Let this be that moment. Not because it's dramatic, but because it's true. Because the God who formed you is the same God who is finishing you, and he has never once lost track of a single step of the journey he authored for you. If this message stirred something in you, don't let it stop here. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below and tell me what shifted for you today. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to keep going. And subscribe, because this community is being built for people exactly like you, chosen ones learning how to survive and step into the fullness of what God has prepared. We'll see you in the next one.